Hi, this is my review for the second half of our ensemble module. We were originally meant to do three parts. There was rock field, writing to film, and big band. Obviously, given the circumstances, we weren't able to complete the big band assessment. So for this video, I'll just be talking about the first two, and I will be starting with Rockfield. So I was quite excited for this assessment. It's a big deal to be recording at Rockfield along with some very, impressive artists. So going into the first week, we got given our groups and we got given our songwriters too. And ours was Ridian, and his song was Be the Day, which is a very interesting track. It's got a heavy Beatles influence, and there are some weird time signature changes and some key changes too. So we couldn't just jump straight in and play along to the track. We had to sit down and mark out the different sections and figure out what was going on and what was a bit different about the sections. Because, for example, between each of the verse and the chorus, the key changed from E to A and then back again. So, we had to look out for that and make sure we knew when it changed and which way it was going before we could just play along. And also in the first verse in the intro, there were bars of 7/4 at the end of them, which jumped straight in. And when it jumped in, that was when new instruments came in as well. So if people weren't aware of those time signature changes, it was easy to miss their cue to go into it. But I discussed with Ridian my part, because obviously I was playing guitar, and on his rough mix, there was just an acoustic guitar mimicking the piano. And I was talking to him because I didn't want to just play the same part as another instrument. And he kind of agreed. He said that he hadn't fleshed out the guitar part. And he mentioned wanting something slightly Brian May-esque. And that meant, on an electric guitar. So I played around with it a bit and I managed to come up with a couple of lead lines that were slightly different to the ones that he had on the track. And also I came into the song a lot later than he had originally planned on for the guitar. But I thought that was good because one thing we did notice about the rough mix was that, it didn't necessarily build very well. And to add on to that, I threw out the idea of a guitar solo towards the end of the song because it felt like it was building and building, but then nothing really came out of it, and then it just died back down for the outro. And Ridian was very on board for that idea. And at the time, I had no idea of what I was going to be playing. But, I messed around for a couple of takes, and he seemed happy with what I was going with. So we decided to keep that in, and I said I was going to go home and work on it. Throughout the next couple of weeks, we had our practices on the Tuesday mornings, as was, that was the time allotted to us. I did message the group and ask about a couple more practices, but no one was ever free all at the same time, so we never got around to having any additional practices. I think it would have been good if, even though not everyone was there, if we could have got together, but no one really suggested that, so we only had the time that was given to us, and I think later on down the line that was a bit of an issue. On the day, I think we were all quite excited to be in Rockfield. Obviously there was some nerves too, just considering the amount of artists that had played there and some of the songs that had been recorded, and we wanted to make sure we, did them justice really. But leading up to it, I had been working on the guitar solo. I'd been discussing with Neil, and he was talking about how, 99% of recorded music, although some of it can be improvised a bit, at least had a structure. So I really took that to heart, and I went away and I wrote a guitar solo for the part. I didn't want to be in the studio and have half my takes be good and then the other half be a bit, meh or whatever. I wanted it to be good content. So we started doing the run-throughs, and I think the first thing that went wrong was in the interlude after the first chorus, we noticed that something was a bit up with the harmonic content. We weren't exactly sure what, and I think that was part of the issue, because we couldn't nail it down and just snuff it out straight away. We played it through a couple times, and something was always slightly wrong. And it was only about 4 or 5 times in that I noticed that the chords that, had been being played by Ridian and Will, they were clashing with each other. They were slightly different, and that also meant that my lead part was slightly off key, because I had written the lead part to the chords on the recording. So when those had changed, my part also sounded off. But I think that was a bit where I faltered really, because I wasn't really confident enough on what I was hearing to, feedback that to them and say, yes, this was what's wrong. So none of us really discussed it, and it wasn't until the afternoon session where we were able to rectify that really. I think I played my part well regardless of that though. Obviously it was a shame that we couldn't communicate better. I think that's a big part of ensemble playing, and I think we fell apart in that regard slightly. But during the afternoon we did discuss the chords with a bit of help from Jill, and we got it on track. And I think in the later stages of the recording, they were starting to sound better and better. I think having it be a live band recording did make it quite tough, especially because Ridian only started playing piano for the song quite late on. I think it was during the last practice. So that, we weren't necessarily always able to get a tight part. And even though I think I played my parts quite well a lot, it only takes one member of the band to be off, and then that take is not really usable because we were trying to avoid doing overdubs. But I think mainly it went okay for me, but that's not really what the assessment is about. And if we had managed to get more practice in, then we would have had a better overall product. Overall, I think the module went okay. I was happy with my guitar solo, and Ridian expressed that to me too. He thought I did a good job, which I was happy about, obviously, because I didn't want to, ruin his vision. I kind of wanted to just enhance it if I could, and he said he thinks I did that. I do think our lack of practice did let us down a bit, especially doing a live recording. We never quite got a take that everyone was satisfied with. And I was also a bit upset that we never went back, because we had planned some additional recording. We were going to add a bit of acoustic guitar and some extra harmonies, and we never went back to that. And it's a bit of a shame hearing the rough mix and thinking about what it could have been. But yeah, overall, I think it went okay. I think my mark quite accurately reflects how it went. It was okay, but it could have been better with just a bit more polish. And that was something I was going to keep in mind for the next module. So the next module we did, and unfortunately the last, was the music to film module, where we were going to be given, just a piece of media, and we had to write music to it. The first one we did was a practice. It was for a car commercial, and that was a good way to, jump in and at least test the ideas for it. I did think it was a bit strange that we had to play live to it. I think in my head, when reading the module brief, I was expecting to just have to record, a piece as an ensemble and then have it play along. So that did shift my expectations a bit, and it meant we had to do things a bit differently. But I was excited for it, and then when we got to the second week, we started practicing for the actual piece, which was Kill Bill. Using the feedback we got given from the practice piece with the car commercial, we started by identifying the parts in the Kill Bill track that really needed musical emphasis, basically. And we noticed a lot of the fight scenes, we all as a group wanted to really bring it up there, and just have some intense music going on. But we also noticed that apart from that, there was a lot of, downtime during the recording, or at least a lot of, film where there was not a lot going on, and maybe space for some more tense music and some building, but not quite full on aggressive. So we tried to take note of that. And we started by going through and time-stamping all the parts. And Luke tried to match the tempo to these parts, but we couldn't quite get it where we wanted. There was too much fluctuation with the BPM, where, one section would be at like 130 BPM, and then the next one would be at like 110. And we found it was very hard to play along to that. And even though we wanted to hit those sections, it meant that the actual songwriting kind of suffered as a result, and we didn't really want that to happen. And also during this process, me personally, I didn't want to overpower anyone with my creative ideas. I think we were in a group where, all of us really had our own vision, and at times it was hard to mesh that together and, collaborate with each other rather than just being like, well, you listen to me and we'll do it my way. It was hard to find some middle ground sometimes. Not in a negative way. I think we were all just quite excited for it, and we all had our own ideas of how to do it. But yeah, so after the first practice, we went home, and we were also aware that Luke wasn't going to be in for the actual performance, and Yasmin was off ill. So me, Aaron, and Max, kind of had to think about how we would do that without them. And so that's why I went home and I started working on a backing track to add some instruments in that would be there when we played live, but we could still play as a free piece. Working on the backing track was quite fun, as I always enjoy kind of the digital side and like the production of things. So, it was fun for me to dive in and find out how to match the tempo to where I wanted it to be, and how to set the click up so only Aaron could hear it and things like that. So it was quite a fun process, I enjoyed doing it, and it did allow a bit of creativity, with I added the choir in the background and kind of a drone. And it was good that as a group we had established we were doing that, because it meant before I was working on that, even though we didn't have all the parts, we at least had a structure for the song, so we could, tell at a minute that's when, we're gonna have a motif, even if we don't have that. So I think we planned this a lot better than the last one because it meant everyone could do work at home. Because then the next week Max would come in and he'd be like, yes, I've got a part for the chorus, and we could slot that into, each section. So that was really good. So, going on to the actual day, we had the backing track, we had all our parts prepared, and then Yasmin showed up, which was a bit of a shock because we thought she was still ill. But she was really great about it. She added a part to the latter half of the song just before the final build-up, which we thought was the worst part of our song. And she said she didn't want to step on too much, but she had an idea for that. And I think it fit really well, actually. It added into the choir, and it really, created a choral effect, and there were some great harmonies going on. So it was really great that she stepped in there, because I think it really elevated a part that we didn't really know what to do with. I think the song itself went well, the performance did. I still would have preferred if we could have recorded it, I think, personally, because we could have, tightened out a bit of the rough edges, but that was all fine. I think the performance went well. It was also a shame we couldn't get the video up on the projector, but I think it was honestly enough work to get, Aaron working to the click, and then the backing track out of the speaker. It was a whole ordeal, and I'm quite happy that I at least had some experience with doing that, because I think it would have been really tough if I went in having never tried that before. But yeah, I think this module went quite well, especially compared to the last one, and that did reflect in my grade. I got quite a high grade that I was happy with, because I really thought I put in some solid work here. And I'm glad with the collaboration. I loved the group I was in. We all bounced off each other quite well. And even though we were all quite strong on opinions of how we wanted to do things, it all just kind of slid together in the end. No one, well, at least that I know of, no one felt like they didn't have their voice heard, or, that they hated the song we came up with. We really managed to gel together. And it was nice to have the practice with the car commercial in the same group, because then we had a chance to gel together. We weren't thrown in the deep end straight away, So yeah, overall I was very happy. I think in terms of things I would have liked to have done better, obviously Luke's backing track didn't work out at first, so that did mean for the first couple practices we were playing without one, and that meant on the day when I brought mine in, there was a bit of a stress of setting it up because we hadn't done it up until that point. So if we could have got that, and I guess I mean me, if I could have done that a bit sooner, that would have been a bit better, and there would have been less hassle involved. And also, the musical ideas we used, when listening to the other groups, I think they had some, really great ideas. There was one that had a more electronic sound, and one had some orchestral instruments. And ours was quite basic compared to that. I think I wish we would have explored some different ideas, because both our songs for the Car and the Kill Bill were quite rocky. We didn't really expand our horizons at all. So I think we could have been a bit more, inventive in that maybe, and that would have been more fun and maybe come up with some more interesting ideas. But I was happy that I was able to showcase, some technical ability, not just my guitar playing. I think the guitar playing was kind of not the main part for me of this module. It's about timing it right. It was about, getting the mix right and sending the different audio signals to different places. And I think I did all of that quite well, and it did show in my mark, and Neil was quite happy about it. And I was happy to talk about it after in the feedback I sent to Neil, just discussing, how I did this and how I did that. And it's fun to have a different role than just playing the guitar. I was definitely doing some more stuff in this module, and I think it paid off. The ensemble module as a whole has been a really great experience for me. I think I've learned a lot about working with other people, about making sure my ideas get heard, but also not overpowering others, and also trying to listen to other people's ideas and even prompt them for them a bit, not just waiting for other people to suggest, maybe asking if they've got any ideas. Because I think working with a group of different people each week really helps, just see different ways of doing things, because everyone's so unique in how they approach problems. And it's really nice to be able to work with other people and see what things they do and compare them to your own, and how things work and how they don't. So I'm quite happy. I'm really happy with some of the work we've produced. I think not all the modules went as well as others. But for example, the instrument swap, I was really happy with my progress on the drums. I think I did a really great job there. And in the Kill Bill module, I was happy with the end result. That could be something I end up putting in maybe a portfolio or using in the future. I think if I was to do it again, I think just in general, more practices than our allotted time would be good, because I don't think everyone was always invested. And that's that's not just saying, oh, the rest of my group. Sometimes it was me too. I just didn't feel the need to. And then when it came to the actual performance, there was always a feeling of, we were 95% of the way there, but an extra practice would have made us all 100%, and we would have known it had been solid. But that's just a thing you can learn through experience. So it's glad that we had the opportunity to fail a bit in this module too. And I think I've learned a lot that I can use going forward.